Good evening from New York. I'm Selwyn Collins of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Thank you for joining us. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, a very special thank you. CWS is about having conversations with people about their journey and how they are using their gifts and talents to help others. I'm always looking for people who are doing extraordinary things or who do things extraordinarily well, because I believe that we are never more connected than when we share our stories. And so I challenge my guests often to imagine someone listening to you, listening not only to your successes and the wonderment of your achievements, but how you might have overcome some of your challenges, how often you got up when you fell, and imagine that person one day becoming a head of state or someone who stops a genocide. That to me is amazing. And it's why I often encourage people to share their stories and to commit to their ideas, because we never know what our accomplishment will start, what chain reaction it will put into place. Our guest this evening is a brother, the Honorable Mayor Adrian Mapp, who I'm honored to have here this evening. I'll take a short break, and when I return, I'll introduce you to Mayor Adrian Mapp.
And it was just a wonderful experience.
I had a great time. I always have a great time when I come here. There was 1 week when I came here 3 times.
Very simple, good food, good friends, amazing staff. I can't complain.
This is Mayor Adrian Mapp. Over the first 8 months of my administration, we have made great strides in reducing violent crime in Plainfield. In spite of these improvements, Plainfield has not been spared from the increased violence we have seen across New Jersey this summer. On Friday evening, August 22nd, I received a phone call that no mayor wants to get.
Good evening again. Those of you joining us for the first time, I'm Selwyn Collins of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. The gentleman next to me is Mayor Adrian Mapp. Mayor Mapp, good evening. It's an honor to have you here this evening.
Good evening, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're quite welcome. Adrian Mapp was sworn into office as the mayor of Plainfield on January 1st, 2014. Prior to being elected as mayor, Adrian served as councilman for the 3rd Ward in the city of Plainfield. He resigned from the council on December 20th, 2013 to prepare for assuming the reins as mayor of Plainfield, New Jersey, where he has resided for over 35 years. He has been married to his childhood sweetheart, Amelia Nee Norse, for over 34 years. Together they are the proud parents of 2 beautiful daughters, Sharmona, who graduated from Pingree School in 1999, and Aisha, who graduated from Wardlaw in 2006. They both attended Howard University. Councilman Mapp has served the residents of Plainfield on the City Council since 1998, except for a term as a Union County freeholder from 2005 to 2007. He led the Plainfield Council as president in 2004 and again in 2012. He holds an MBA in International Business from Farley Dickinson University, a BS in Accounting from Rutgers University, and an AA in Public Administration from Union County College. He's a certified public accountant, CPA, a certified municipal finance officer, CMFO, and a qualified purchasing agent. Married for 33 years, a Sunday school teacher, a lecturer, served on the vestry and mayor of the city of Plainfield. How do you manage it all? And how do you find a balance between all of this and leisure?
That's a very good question, but I'm able to manage this because I do have a passion for public service and I enjoy doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, there's the saying that if you want something done, you give it to someone who's busy and you know that it will get done. So, in spite of my very busy schedule, I'm able to balance family life as well as public service.
If you were not in politics and the mayor of the city of Plainfield, what would be your career?
I am a finance and accounting person by background, but if I were not in politics and if I were to do this all over again, I would probably want to be someone in education, someone who is helping to prepare the minds, helping to shape the minds of the future. And that's probably where I would be if I were not in this role.
Why did you run for mayor?
I wanted to make a difference. I wasn't satisfied with the leadership that we had in the city for the past 8 years. And so I felt deep down within me that I possessed the capabilities, the capacity to really provide the leadership that the city needs. And I am confident that I could move the city forward, move it to where it needs to be.
Your campaign slogan was One Plainfield, One Future. What was the message you hoped your voters and now your constituents got?
I believe that the constituents of the city of Plainfield, they got from that it was my desire and still is to bring all of the people in Plainfield together, regardless of which corner of the city they may reside, regardless of economic standing. I have a desire, a goal, a plan, a vision to bring together all of the people of our rich city so that together we could move our city forward. And I will continue to pursue that goal.
You were born in Barbados, I understand. Can you give us a glimpse of your life at the age of 9, at the age of 16, and who you became at 21?
You know, my life at the age of 9, I am currently working on a book. The title is Ivan, Look Your Son. And that has to do with a young boy who was standing at the corner playing the game of cricket with his friends. And there was this elderly gentleman who was standing not too far away. And he was there for about an hour supervising a work crew. And my mother's first cousin came walking across the street. I must have been about 8 or 9. And she said to this man, Ivan, look your son. And I had been there for about an hour playing with my friends. And the man to my left was my father. I should say was my dad. And so life for me as a kid wasn't easy. I had a very tough childhood with very little means, but with determination to succeed in life, and with a grandmother and mother who fathered me and who did all that they could to make life better for me. So as a kid of 9, it was very rough, but with pure determination to succeed, placed on a value on education, I was able to overcome and to be where I am today. And at 16, I pledged to myself that I will be somebody, and that one day I would have a family, and that I would be the best person that I could be. There will be kids one day, and I will be the best father, the father that I never had to my kids. And that's life at 9. That's life at age 16. It was a difficult childhood, but one that prepared me to become who I am today.
And who did you become at 21?
At 21, I became a young man who had a burning desire to succeed and to get to a place And that place happens to be these United States, where I could have access to education and to opportunities, and to be reunited with my mom and with my siblings, and to make a life for myself and to the family that I now have.
You mentioned your grandparents and the toughness of your childhood. Is there a particular experience from your parents that helped to shape who you are today?
Well, I would say it was growing up in a household where there wasn't a father, but where there was a grandmother who, after my mother, left Barbados to come to the United States in search of opportunities. Growing up in the house with my grandmother, who did everything she could to make sure that I succeeded in school and become all that I could be. It was her determination. It was her wanting to make sure that we had whatever it is that we needed that she could afford. And that wasn't much, but to make sure that we had whatever little she could afford.
What's her name?
Her name was Enos.
Enos?
Enos Mapp.
Enos Mapp. Wow. If you were to eavesdrop a conversation between your grandmother, or among your grandmother, your mother, your wife, and your daughters, telling a stranger about you, what do you think each of them would say, starting with Grandma?
I think Grandma would say that I knew he would become somebody. I just knew. I believe that a conversation with my mom would be about how proud she is of her son. A conversation that my wife is having with someone would be about the love, the life that we share, and the family that we've raised, and how proud she is of us as a family unit. Those are some of the things I think would be said in the conversation.
And your daughters?
My daughters would be so proud of their dad. And I believe that my daughters will talk about the fact that I have done everything in my power to make sure that they had what they needed, and that I was there each and every day of their life to provide for them what I didn't have a father to provide for me.
What is it like, upon reflection, when you, in your quiet moments, when you think about this family, your wife, your daughters, and what, as a 16-year-old, you wanted for yourself? What is that like? What comes to mind?
You know, I always dreamed from that age of one day having a family, having a home to come home to, having a wife and having kids, and being able to have a structured unit where there is love, where there's caring and sharing. And I've always dreamt of that. And I always envied some of my playmates who had or who were part of a two-parent household. And I dreamed of one day becoming the father that I didn't have, and exposing my kids to the recreational opportunities that I wish I had as a kid, and just being in their life. And those are the things that I dreamt of as a teenager, knowing the experience of my childhood and knowing what was possible if I were to be given the opportunity. I just knew that one day I would be in a place where I could give of myself, where I could raise my family, where I could have a wife that I love, so much, so dearly. And just be a wonderful husband, a great father, a great provider, and a leader in my family and in my community.
Talking about dreams coming true, it gives me such a beautiful segue into your current position as mayor of the city of Plainsfield. Did you ever dream of a political career? And when you began your political career, have you ever dreamed of holding such a position as mayor?
I never really thought when I entered this arena that I would one day be sitting in the office of the mayor. But I always had a feeling that I would be a public servant one day. And I believe that if I were in Barbados, that I would have gotten to a point where I would have entered the political arena. And so one Sunday morning, back in 1996, I felt it was time for me to test the waters and to make that plunge into the public arena as a public servant, to try to change and transform the community of Plainfield, where I've been living for the past 35 years.
Talking about Plainfield, what led you there? What was the trigger that led you to Plainfield, and why did you decide? What is it about Plainfield that you decide to make it your home?
I was invited to Plainfield by a friend, distant relative, and a next door neighbor from Barbados. A few days after I came to the United States. And I spent a few days in Plainfield. And as you know, New Jersey is known as the Garden State. And there was something about New Jersey and about Plainfield, the homes, just the look and feel of the community that was attractive to me. And then when I was working for a transportation company that was located at One Battery Plaza in Manhattan, and it moved to Cranford, New Jersey, it was very easy for me to make the move to Plainfield, New Jersey, because I had a friend, a next door neighbor, a distant cousin who was right there, and I had been introduced to a number of people, and Plainfield felt like home. So it was very easy for me to make that transition. And quite frankly, I never fell in love with New York City. I love to come and visit, but I want to go back home to Plainfield.
Awesome. You're awesome representative of your city indeed. Barbados.
Yes.
You were born there. When you think of Barbados, what comes to mind, and what does it mean to you to be a Bajan?
I am a very, very proud Barbadian. Because that is the foundation, that is the launch pad from which I was catapulted into these United States. And it is the foundation upon which I have built my entire life. It is where my values were shaped. It is where my education started. And it is where the foundation was built. But having said that, I am a very happy and proud Barbadian. I am enormously proud to be an American and grateful to be an American. And so I have this duality as a human being from Barbados, where it all started, but yet living in these United States as an American. And so that duality I find to be very interesting, because there's something about Barbados that lies deep within my soul, yet it's the greatest country on the face of the earth, known as the United States, where I now reside and where I call home, and where I seek to make a difference each and every day. And at the local level, that is in Plainfield more than any other place.
Talking about making a difference, it is no surprise to anyone who's acquainted with you that your vision, you intended to unify the city of Plainfield, serve everyone, and improve morale of the city. How can you tell that some of these initiatives have been or are being realized?
Well, the proof of the pudding is always in the eating, and we will know in time whether or not I am realizing my vision. To put my vision more succinctly, my vision for the city of Plainfield is one of community harmony, economic vitality, cultural vibrancy, and the social and economic well-being of every person who lives in our city, and to have an environment where they can live in safety and security. And I will know whether or not I am realizing that vision based on how people feel, whether or not they feel safe each and every day, whether or not I am successful in driving crime down so that Plainfield can become a more inviting place, whether or not I am successful in bringing businesses into the city of Plainfield, and whether I'm able to bring the community together. We have a city that is divided. There are 4 wards in our city. And there's affluence on one side and on the other side. We have people who need a hand so that they can be lifted up from the conditions that they're in. And the success of my administration will be proven based on whether or not I can succeed with my administration, the team that I have put together, in helping to move a segment of our city out from the poverty that they're now experiencing to a better quality of life, a higher standard of living. So the quality of life for the people will be one barometer to prove whether or not I'm realizing my vision, but also the businesses that I'm able to attract into the city in order to drive economic development, expand our commercial tax base, and provide property tax relief for the people that live in the city of Plainfield. Those are the barometers by which I will be judged and will help to determine whether or not my vision is being realized for the city.
You know, I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm thinking, what if you had not gone into politics? So I want to spend a little more time in your early timeline and then come back, make it back around to your current vocation or your current job and so on. At what age do you believe you were, or can you remember you were introduced to politics?
That would have been in 1971, when there was a young lawyer by the name of Louis Tao who entered politics and ran for Parliament to represent the St. George South Central District. And as a kid, I was just so enthralled by this charismatic individual, this lawyer, and I would just follow him everywhere he'd go, every place he went, whenever he came to town to campaign. So I was one of the kids who helped to spread the word at that time. He was not successful, but he persevered, and he ran 5 years later. And I, in 1976, was of age to vote for the very first time. And it's the only time I voted in Barbados, in 1976. And I voted for this individual who was successful in being elected to Parliament. Went on to become a minister, and he was knighted by the Queen. And as a matter of fact, I saw him about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was at a funeral in Hempstead, and I saw him. We were able to reconnect. But that was my first introduction to politics.
You know, I consider each guest a gem because I believe, because a gem has many facets, and oftentimes we are exposed to only a few facets and we form an opinion of that person. But what I like to do on this show is to twist the gem a little bit and expose the other facets. So if you would indulge me, if you were to take us back in time to someone or someone's you looked up to, he would be one, of course, that helped to shape you into this person we have come to know as Adrian Mapp? Can you give us some names?
Well, I would say one of the people that comes to mind would be a gentleman by the name of Crombie Brown, who was the first person that I worked for. When I graduated high school in 1974, at the age of 17, I got my first job at the Barbados Marketing Corporation, and I worked for a gentleman by the name of Crombie Brown. And he instilled in me some work ethics, and he helped direct my path in terms of helping to prepare me for the world of business. He helped to provide some discipline. And so I look to him as one of the individuals who helped shape who I am in terms of my professionalism. Then there were some teachers who were very important in my life, and I attended high school at the Seventh Adventist High School in Barbados, and the principal, who was Miss Bain, she was a no-nonsense person, and who made sure that you stayed on the straight and narrow. And I would not want to do anything that would run afoul of the principal. So she was very important in my life. There was a math teacher in elementary school whose name was Mr. Dean. And I have a great aptitude for math. I ace calculus, great aptitude for math. And I believe that's where it started, with Mr. Dean, who instilled in me the confidence that I needed to really embrace and to understand difficult concepts. And so those are some of the people who were very important in my upbringing and who helped to lay the foundation for the person that I am today.
What does an ideal playing field look like to you?
An ideal playing field is a city where we don't have crime. It's a city where all of our homes are occupied. It's a city where banks are not a part of the problem of the city in pushing people out of their homes, which is a part of the larger problem in this country. But the ideal playing field for me is one where my vision is realized. That vision that I talked about, where everyone in the community comes together in unity and harmony, and where people enjoy that quality of life that they deserve, and where the housing stock continues to grow, and where people want to come to Plainfield to invest and to be a part of the cultural vibrancy that is the city. That's the ideal playing field for me, one that is inviting, where people want to come in, and where our young people have opportunities, where they're employed, and where the unemployment rate continues to go down. Since January, it went from 12% to 8%.
Congratulations.
And so I am looking for a playing field where our people will be working and contributing and helping their families to stay in their homes and to thrive.
A level playing field would be appropriate.
A level playing field. I like that. A level playing field. Opportunities for everyone.
What are some goals you had going in that you were determined to achieve by the end of your tenure?
Yeah. One of the goals that I had going into office, and that I still have, is to really bring businesses into our community, to put a significant dent in property taxes. New Jersey is known as the highest property tax state in the nation. And one of the complaints that I get from my constituents all the time is that property taxes are too high. So coming into office, I wanted to be able to put a dent in that. And one of the ways that we can do that is by creating an environment in the city that is more inviting to businesses, where people with capital come in and invest, where we expand the commercial tax base so that we can provide relief to homeowners by shifting the burden of property taxes from the homeowners to the commercial businesses. So that was one, and it still is, one of the primary goals that I have. But even more important than that, because if businesses are to come in, they want to know that the community is safe, and they want to know that there's going to be a market for whatever it is they're selling, whether it's a mixed-use building with commercial on the lower level and apartments on the upper floor. Investors want to know that the community is safe. The people that you serve want to know that they're living in a safe community. So I wanted to make sure that Plainfield is the safest place there is in New Jersey to live. That's a goal of mine, and I will continue to dedicate the resources to achieve the goal of making Plainfield a place where everyone feels safe and secure. Another goal that I had coming into office is to be able to put our people to work, especially our young people. And that's a part of the solution in terms of making our community safer. If we can get our young people away from the streets and into job opportunities where they're gainfully employed, and also if we could divert some of the money that is spent not only locally but across the state and nationally, money that is being spent to incarcerate, to warehouse our young people, if we can make more funding available to send some of our young people to school so that they could have careers and be able to provide for their families, that's a goal that I have, to be able to get our city to a place where our young people have opportunities at the local level, but also are in a position to go on beyond Plainfield, to go to college and to become somebody. So these are just some of the goals that I have for our city.
It is said that, or believed that, when politicians get into office, whatever their office is, local, city, or state, or even the national level, that the realities of the office weighs upon them when they actually get the portfolio. And so I ask you this: when you got there, did you have to recalibrate your vision a little bit? Has it evolved, or are you able to pursue your vision in its original form?
I've had to do a lot of recalibrating.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so because of the political climate. Mm-hmm. It is easier to realize your vision when you have a legislative body that is working harmoniously and whose vision is aligned with your vision. And similar to some of the problems that our president is having at the national level with a divided Congress, I have some of those challenges as well at the local level. And so some of the plans that I came into office with, I've had to put on hold because of the lack of the level of support that is needed to realize the vision that I came into office with. An example of that is that we have a need to rebrand our city. We have a need to market our city beyond the borders of the state and across the nation so that we could find those businesses, those individuals with investment dollars to bring into our community. And I've had to recalibrate in the sense that the budget that I need in order to do that rebranding that has been a part of my platform, I haven't been able to get the level of financial budgetary support that is needed. And so that is one of the things that I've had to adjust. And there will be other things that I will have to adjust along the way in terms of the personnel that I would like to have within my administration in order to carry out the many different functions that are absolutely necessary if the vision, as I envision it and as I presented it to the people, is to be realized.
When I see you, when I listen to you, I see commitment, I see perseverance and sacrifice. What do you see when you reflect on your journey, and what would you like your reflection to tell you 10 years from now?
What I see when I look back, when I reflect on my experiences, I see an individual who has been down many times and who never allowed himself to stay down, but always had the energy, the determination that caused me to just elevate myself and to just keep moving forward. And that has been my experience as a professional, as someone who is in the political arena. I've had many setbacks, and people have looked at me and have said, I don't know how you did it, or how you're able to stay standing in spite of the adversity and in spite of the many hurdles that you've had to overcome. But it's that determination that is at the very core of my being. So when I reflect, I look back from whence I came. I look back at the many falls that I took. And not that I stumbled, but I was pushed. But yet I was able to get up and stand tall. And I'm sitting here today being interviewed by you as the mayor of the city of Plainfield, because I was determined to succeed no matter what.
What in your upbringing informs this determination?
I have to go back to that story that I told you at the top of this interview about the man who was standing not too far away, and the childhood that I had. It was the absence of that gave me the drive and the determination to become. I didn't see any other way, because I knew that failure was not an option. I knew that I would be successful, be one of the first people in my family to gain a college education. I knew that because of the fact that I came through some very difficult times with very little, going to high school with no lunch, I knew that there was a better way, and that through, strong determination, that I could be. And so I am.
You're a human, Mayor Mapp. You are.
Yes.
We all are. And there are times when our humanity weighs heavy upon us.
Yes.
There are times, no matter what our experiences, what our knowledge, we are tempted to succumb. We are tempted to. But then there is something, a voice perhaps, a memory, that drives us, motivates us. Whose voice do you hear in your head in those moments telling you, you must get up?
Well, I hear the voice of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, What self-centered men have torn down, other-centered men must build up. And I am one of those centered individuals who is deeply rooted in the African tradition and in the faith and in the hard work and determination, the sweat, blood, and tears of my ancestors whose blood nourished the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. And it is with these ancestors in mind, and with the thoughts, the words, and the wisdom of someone like a Martin Luther King, that I know that anything is possible and that no one can keep me down. And I am not the kind of person to be bitter. And I learned that a long time ago. When I first came to this country, I was watching Wide World of Sports on ABC. And the late boxer Hurricane Carter had just been released from prison after spending 20 years for murder that he did not commit. And he was asked by Howard Cosell at the time, "You've spent 20 years in prison for this murder that you didn't do. Aren't you bitter?" And he said, "No, I can't be bitter because bitterness consumes the vessel that contains it." And so that has stayed with me all these many years. And in spite of being knocked down by so many people, I don't have time to be bitter because I will be consumed by that bitterness and I want to be enveloped by love.
That is a good note to take a break on. Being by love. Wow. I want to leave this question with you to answer on the other side of the break. Giving back seems to be a recurring theme in your endeavors. When did this passion for giving back and empowering others begin? And can you relate it to any I keep going back to your upbringing, but can you relate that to any aspect of your upbringing?
And it was just a wonderful experience.
I had a great time. I always have a great time when I come here. There was 1 week when I came here 3 times.
Very simple, good food, good friends, amazing staff. I can't complain.
I received a phone call that no mayor wants to get, announcing the second murder in our city this year. The words, "one playing field, one future," have never rung more true. We must guarantee the safety of our residents in every neighborhood in our city. And to that end, we have put everyone on notice that illegal activity and violent crimes will not be tolerated in Plainfield.
We are back with Mayor Adrian Mapp. Mayor Mapp, the question is, giving back seems to be a recurring theme in all your endeavors. When do you believe this passion for giving back started, and how do you relate it to your upbringing?
It all goes back to my very early days as a child in Barbados. And I recall the days when my grandmother, this is after my mom had left Barbados to come to the United States, and my grandmother would go to the market on Saturdays to sell some produce so as to be able to get some money to provide for the family. And sometimes I would be starving, there would be nothing to eat. And my next door neighbor, I could go across the yard to her house and I would get something to eat. Or I could go a few yards further at my mother's first cousin, Edlin, and she would give us something to eat. And so I came up as a very poor individual with nothing really other than determination. And so coming to the United States and working hard and achieving some level of success, people see you only as you are now. And that's the only basis upon which they judge you. And sometimes they're so wrong about the things they say about you. We have a wonderful life. We have a beautiful home, but we know there are so many other people who don't have, just like I as a kid growing up didn't have. And so the mere fact that there were people in my community, in my life, who stepped in and who gave to me when I needed something to eat, something to drink, that has caused me to recognize the need for me to be a giving soul. And so I have a philosophy. Do something good for a person every day and tell no one about it. And so my wife and I, we do good deeds for people almost daily. And we don't want anything in return. And we don't tell anyone about the things that we do for people, because our philosophy is to do something good for another person every day and tell no one about it. And so it is that foundation, that experience as a kid, and having people who have stepped in to give me a meal to eat when I had nothing. I remember that. And I know that I have a debt to pay. And so I try to do that every single day. And I want to be judged by my actions and not by, the material things that I have acquired as a result of some of the success that I've achieved. Deep down inside of me is an individual who wants to make sure that I make life better for every person in the city of Plainfield and every person that I come in touch with. Because the things that we have are just for a moment. And what matters is what you do in the moment, in the space that you occupy.
This giving back, you just held your 7th annual barbecue where you invite people, anyone in the neighborhood. But you tell us about this. What is it about?
This is an annual event, and we've been doing this for the last 7 or so years. And it is about bringing the community together. Again, we go back to that one playing field, which has been a part of my campaign. It is a part of my administration. One playing field. It's about bringing people together. But it's not only about bringing people together to have fun. I love that. I enjoy that. I love having people, meeting neighbors, meeting new friends, and just being in that social atmosphere which is conducive to people forming relationships. But it's more than that. We ask people to bring some canned goods and non-perishable food items so that we could donate those items to a local food bank. Because, as my wife has often said, we bring people together, they're having a great meal, they're having fun, they're drinking, they're eating, they're laughing. But there's so many people who could not be at the event and who don't know where the next meal is coming from. And so one of the things that motivate us to do this is that we're able to make a difference by collecting tons of canned goods and non-perishables that we then donate to the local food bank. And that food bank, they're able to make a difference in people's lives and provide a meal for families who might otherwise not have a meal on the table.
Of all the things that you have accomplished, or all the accomplishments in your first 100 days as mayor, of which are you most proud, and what are you eager to accomplish in the next 100 days?
I am very proud of the fact that I have been able to gain a level of education that my parents did not have. And I'm also very proud of the fact that I have a family that is strong, that is united, a wife that loves me, and two daughters that are the most beautiful thing that one can imagine. So those are the things that come first and foremost in my life. I am proud of the fact also that I have been able to serve my community and to make a difference in people's lives.
What can you tell us about you that most people do not know that might surprise them?
Some people would be surprised of what a very soft, generous, and passionate soul that I am. Because I have a facade that is just that, a facade. I don't smile much. And I talked a lot about my upbringing, not having a father. We all have dads.
Yeah.
A dad is a person who sows the seed, but the father is the one who nurtures and who provides and who is there and who is a part of making, the child who he or she becomes. And so people are oftentimes surprised at what a soft and compassionate and generous and giving soul that I am. And when people get to know me and they go beyond that facade, they realize that I'm a wonderful person.
What advice would you give to young people wanting a career in local government?
I would say get involved. Get involved at an early age. You don't have to be an adult to become involved in the public service arena. So I would encourage any young person who wants to get involved in politics. There are campaigns that are conducted every year in your community, whether it's for the school board, whether it's for the city council, whether you're 10, 11, or 12, you can get involved. You can put some posters in people's, doors. You can make some phone calls. So people who want to be involved in public service, they have got to get involved and do that from an early age because it helps you to build relationships. It helps you to understand. It helps you to develop the tough skin that you're going to need as a public servant. But service is Shirley and Chisholm, that Bajan and Guyanese lady, said, service is that debt we pay for this room here on earth. And young people need to embrace that and understand that public service is not only a calling, but it's a duty and a responsibility.
I know that you were sworn in recently, but what is your recollection of that moment when you first realized that you won the race?
It was surreal because it's something that I couldn't believe that it was actually happening, and that I had realized that dream of becoming the mayor of my city, and that I had overcome so many odds and obstacles, and I was standing there in the moment knowing that I had conquered and overcome so many difficulties in life. And now I would become the leader of my city, the mayor of the Queen City of Plainfield.
Now tell us about the first moment you sat in that chair, knowing that, hey, I am the mayor. What was your most prevalent thought?
It was about the gentleman who brought me in to the process in a very big way. I stepped out on my own in 1996 as an independent, but I met a gentleman by the name of Al McWilliams, who served 1 year on the council, ran for mayor, was elected, and then I was appointed to replace him. And he and I were very close. And so the challenges that he had as mayor leading our city were very similar to the challenges that I have as mayor today. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2006 after a very brief illness. And he sat in the chair that I now sit in. And when I sat in that office for the first time, he came to mind. So it wasn't just about my accomplishments and my sitting there, in a state of being on cloud nine, but it was also about his spirit, which was hovering over me.
What surprised you most about the office? About being mayor? What surprised you the most so far?
I would say it would be that people expect perfection in a public servant, and that they expect you to be in total agreement and in harmony with their ideas. And sometimes I make a decision and I would hope that people would realize that we are not always going to be on the same page. And at times I am surprised that there's that expectation that people want me to be in agreement with them at all times. And that is not possible. It is not a good thing, because we've got to have differences and we must agree to disagree. But there's that expectation that people who supported me, they have an expectation that we must always be on the same page.
What do you see from that chair, the mayor's chair, that you never saw as a councilman, you never could have seen as a councilman? And maybe this is unfair, but here's a third dimension. Perhaps you could not have seen as a councilman.
I see from the seat of the mayor the need for compromise and the need to not be as regimented in my positions while I was on the other side. Because the need to be embracing of the art of compromise is very present in everything that I do every day. When you are in the office of a council person, you don't have an entire city to run. You're not dealing with every person that lives in the city. You are more focused on your narrow corner of the city and of catering to some of the residents of the city. But as mayor, I am the mayor of all of the people. And even those that I disagree with, that were on the opposite side, I have to be able to reach out and touch and embrace those individuals who were not embracing of me. And sitting in this office as mayor, if I am to be successful, if I am to get my tentacles out into every corner of the community, every successful mayor or leader has got to be able to build a bigger tent and to bring more people under that tent. And you don't see that as a council person.
What have you learned about yourself as a mayor?
I have learned that I am, I would say, more forgiving than people might have otherwise expected me to be.
Which leads me to my next question. How do you believe you're perceived by your constituents versus how you'd like to be perceived?
I may be perceived by my constituents as a no-nonsense, smart, hard worker who is able to get the job done. And then there are some of my constituents who may think that I am not that teddy bear that they would like to get close to and embrace.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that facade that I talked about, sometimes they don't feel comfortable in trying to penetrate that.
Of your administration's 4 key areas: fiscal responsibility, economic development, public safety, and quality of life. If you had to choose one, and forgive me for the unfairness of this question, but if you had to choose one, which would it be?
It would be public safety.
Mm,
If you have that, the others will come.
I like that. I like that. What does social media and technology mean to the success of your administration's agenda?
It is something that has to be a part of my administration.
Mhm.
It is not where it needs to be, but it's a work in process. And I will continue to try to make that very much a part of the administration. Because in terms of getting the message out, in terms of marketing the city, I believe that social media is something that we cannot shy away from.
Mhm.
And I will be embracing that to the fullest.
We'll take a quick break, but let me answer this question before we go. What is most frustrating in accomplishing some of the changes you want to implement?
Most frustrating for me is oftentimes the roadblocks that I face with a governing body that is sometimes not as easy to work with as I would have liked and as I would hope. So that's one of my greatest challenges, but it's one that I am working to improve and to make sure that the members that are part of the legislative branch of government are on the same page with my administration, and that together we aspire to work collaboratively, cooperatively to move the city forward. And so that's my hope, that's my goal, and that is something that I am hoping to achieve.
When we come back, I want you to address this question. On March 14th, you submitted to the City Council a fiscally responsible and balanced budget, setting the mark for the first time any administration has done so. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Why was this important to you, and how did you accomplish such a feat?
And it was just a wonderful experience.
I had a great time. I always have a great time when I come here. There was 1 week when I came here 3 times.
Very simple, good food, good friends, amazing staff. I can't complain.
We are writing a new chapter in Plainfield's history. These incidents of violence do not define us as a city, and they will not keep us from becoming all that we are meant to be. But law enforcement alone cannot solve Plainfield's problems. Violent crime will decrease in Plainfield when we see an increase in employment, in education, and in opportunities. We are our brothers' keepers and our sisters' keepers.
We are back with Mayor Adrian Mapp. Mayor, the question, would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Yes. 14th of March, you submitted to the City Council a fiscally responsible and balanced budget, setting the mark for the first time any administration has done so. Why was this important to you, and how did you accomplish such a feat?
Well, that is very important to me as the mayor of the city. I believe that the fiscal integrity of any organization is the foundation upon which success is built. And so I came into office after a mayor who was in office for 8 years and a city that hadn't had a CFO for 7 of those 8 years. And so our financial house was not in order. And so it was important for me, first of all, to bring on board a chief financial officer with the experience that the city needs. And I brought on a person to be the director of finance who has a great deal of experience. So having the right people in place, I was able to introduce a budget on time that was balanced and that provided for the needs of the city, as well as it had dollars in there to help me move forward with my vision. So I was able to do that by having the right people in place and recognizing the need for financial integrity. And it's what the people wanted, and I wanted to make sure that we turn the tide and not go down the road that the city had been on for the last 8 years.
In the chat room, Dawn said, Sel, I am enjoying your conversation with Mayor Mapp. I'd like to know how he would challenge young men who have not had fathers in their lives to stop the cycle and want to be good fathers themselves.
That's a very good question. And it is unfortunate that there are so many of our young people, our young boys in particular, who are grown up in homes without fathers. And I would like to challenge every person within the sound of my voice, our young men in particular, to recognize that they too have the capacity to be leaders in this world. And in spite of the fact that there was something missing in their lives, that they could take or look to me as an example where you could succeed if you have people who care about you in your life, such as good teachers, good mentors, good community leaders. And I would want to encourage every person who doesn't have a father in his or her life to not let that be a deterrent to success, but use it as a motivating force to help transform your life like I transform mine. And recognize that you have value, that you have worth, and that you can contribute in making a difference to society. And you must pledge to yourself and commit to yourself that you will succeed and that you will not go down the path, the road that will lead to destruction. So look on the brighter side, look to people like myself, and recognize that you can do it. There are examples that you can follow.
What is the hardest decision you've ever had to make as mayor?
I would say one of the hardest decisions that I've had to make was to separate individuals from the employ of the city as a result of budget cuts. It's never easy when people have to lose their jobs, but because of budgetary cuts, there were some very difficult decisions that had to be made. It was also a very difficult decision that I just made to hire someone who I believe to be the best person for the job, the most qualified, and someone who, in spite of some negative feelings in the community, I believe is able to do a very effective job and will help me to realize my vision. So that was another difficult decision because I knew upon making it that there would be a lot of people who would have a problem with that decision. But I did it for all of the right reasons, and I did it because I believe it would help us to move our city forward and help me to realize my vision for the city and move the city to a better place.
If another African American mayor, someone who's running for mayor of a city, another city in America, what kind of, a city similar to yours or similar issues, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would say if you are aspiring to be the mayor of a city that is a size that is similar to Plainfield with some of the challenges that we have, to recognize that you are not going to be able to turn things around overnight. Mm-hmm. And that change is a process, it's not an event. And that you must recognize that there will be obstacles, but you have got to be determined to succeed. And in attempting to lead your city, you've got to be in the driver's seat. It's important for anyone who is seeking to be the leader of a city such as Plainfield to recognize that the challenges that we face did not come to us overnight and will not disappear overnight. And don't commit to more than you could actually achieve or accomplish. And know that 4 years is the length of your term, and your platform will not necessarily, can't be, as a matter of fact, be accomplished in those 4 years. So you have got to have a plan in terms of how you are going to progressively move the agenda and accomplish the things that you have in mind in terms of your platform and your vision for a city such as the one that I am leading.
Many years ago, someone close to you invited you to spend some time in Plainfield, and you fell in love with it right away. But things have changed, times have changed. For those who might be considering migrating to Plainfield, but they are concerned about safety and education for their children, what would you tell them to allay their fears?
I would say to those individuals that Plainfield is a city that has a diversity that is not seen anyplace else. Mm-hmm. That Plainfield is a city that has the best housing stock any part of New Jersey. And that Plainfield is a city where anyone who has a desire to succeed and who wants to be a part of the transformative change that will occur, those individuals should come into Plainfield. There are opportunities, and our community is one that is the most culturally diverse of any community in the state of New Jersey, in my mind. Mm-hmm. And so people who live in any state, the USA, if they're looking for a place where the community is a closely knit community, where the diversity is one that they are seeking, and where they're looking for a decent home at a very reasonable price, Plainfield is a place that I would invite anyone to come and be a part of our future.
What is one campaign promise you're glad you were able to fulfill?
That I would bring a chief financial officer on board from day one. I didn't do it on day one, I did it on day 28.
Day 28. What is the greatest pushback you get from council members?
The greatest pushback that I have gotten so far had to do with, one, the budget, and two, some appointments, especially appointments to an authority that we have in the city. So those have been the greatest setbacks that I've had, not being able to get the level of funding in the budget as I would have liked to help me move my vision, and not being able to make changes at one of the agencies in the city where changes are absolutely needed. And so I am hopeful that I will be able to change that dynamic right now and be in a better position in the not too distant future.
What is a typical day for a mayor or for you?
For me, a typical day, and I should tell you that as mayor in the city of Plainfield, it is not a full-time job for me. So I am the director of finance in another municipality. So a typical day for me, I get up in the morning, I sometimes make a stop at City Hall in Plainfield, and then I go on to my other job in the city of Orange. I work there for a full day, and then I come back to Plainfield and go back to work as mayor of the city of Plainfield. And oftentimes I don't get home until 8 or 9 o'clock. And so I have very long days, and I don't get to bed until 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I survive on about 4 hours sleep because I am so busy juggling the office of mayor with the responsibility of being the director of finance and still having to provide for my family.
What keeps you going?
The passion.
Passion. Let's take a break.
It was just a wonderful experience.
I had a great time. I always have a great time when I come here. There was 1 week when I came here 3 times.
Very simple, good food, good friends, amazing staff. I can't complain.
Most important, Plainfield's children are our children, and their future is the one we make for them today. As your mayor, I want all of Plainfield to know, especially our young people. I want you to know that we are here to protect you. Your future is our future. You are very important to me as your mayor. You're important to the city. And I want you to come together, speak to your friends, let your peers know that you are opposed to violence and that you want a safe playing field to grow in, and that you are opposed to gang violence, you are opposed to all of the negative things that keep us back as a community.
We're back with Mayor Adrian Mapp. Mayor Mapp, when you think back on the arc of your political career, what are you most proud of?
I am most proud of the fact that in coming into office in the city of Plainfield as an elected official, that I have been able to make a difference in my community. When I was the council president, I was able to lead the charge to create some ordinances that caused many streets across the city to be reconstructed, to be repaved. And so being able to provide the level of service to help bring transformative change to my community is something that I am very proud of. Making that difference that I set out to make, transforming, and change in my community.
Do you remember where you were and your feelings on January 20, 2009 when President Obama became the 44th and first black president of the United States.
Yes, I was sitting in the living room of at a friend's home. That friend is Bobby Gregory, and there were about maybe 40 of us in the room, and sitting on the floor was an 80-year-old lady who was shedding tears. The tears were running down her cheeks, because she never thought that in her lifetime that she would see a black person become the president of the United States. And it was a proud moment for all of us, not only in New Jersey, not only in the United States, but across the world.
Yes.
And so I was in the living room of Bobby Gregory in the company of about 40 to 50 other people. And Dorothy Henry, that octogenarian, shed tears of joy at seeing Barack Obama elected as the President of the United States. Great moment. Unforgettable.
How would you like your legacy as mayor of Plainfield to be viewed?
I would like my legacy to be one of change, success. I would like to be known as the mayor who got the job done, who was able to bring Plainfield back to the pinnacle of success.
What are you most thankful for?
I'm thankful for the grace of God. I am thankful for my lovely wife and our 2 beautiful daughters. I'm thankful for the opportunities that I have been given.
If you could go back in time, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
I will tell that 16-year-old kid to always remember that in spite of the odds, that anything is possible, and never give up. Keep persevering. I would encourage that kid to aim for the stars, because there's a place where he can be, a place called success.
Before I ask you the last question, which I ask all my guests, if there were several young people sitting in a room this evening listening to you from Plainfield, what would you tell them?
I will tell every person that is sitting in a room, every young person, to value education and to know, like the mother of the author of Cafe Boy said to him, that education is the key that opened the doors to opportunities where none seem to exist. And instead of turning to a life on the street, turn to the classroom and value education. Work hard, because it is your passport to success. It worked for me, and it can work for every young person who is sitting in a room right this moment. Turn away from the streets and turn to the classroom. Turn to the books.
My last question. What makes you laugh out loud?
What makes me laugh? Sitting here in this moment, realizing where I have come from, where I came from and where I am. It gives me such great joy and pleasure that laughter just fills my soul. But I do enjoy a good joke. And so it's I like fun. I like fun, and I like to laugh.
Mayor Mapp, it was such an honor to have you here and to have you indulge me these questions and for you to share your journey and to allow me to explore your early timelines, your childhood, and who you are today and who you're becoming. It was indeed an honor for all of us. I hope that I did my audience service, a good service, in having this conversation with you. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely. I learned a lot. I'm still smiling. And I want to thank you so much for that.
Well, I want to thank you. I've enjoyed conversations with Selwyn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Thank you.
We must stand up. We must come together. We must unite as a city to make sure that we make this city a safer place for all of us as one playing field for one future, one goal, a better playing field. May God bless these United States. May God bless the city of Plainfield. Thank you. Thank you.
And it was just a wonderful experience.
I had a great time. I always have a great time when I come here. There was 1 week when I came here 3 times.
Very simple, good food, good friends, amazing staff. I can't complain.